kill. Whereas when you beat somebody repeatedly until they're in a coma, you'd be hard-pressed to say that was an accident. Or if you shoot somebody like Gil Collar or Dylan Taylor or Godot or George Michael Brown.
Yet they all got off. Even when they kept beating Kelly Thomas, they still got off. They still,
right.
you know.
Well, see, and there were no riots. So what I'm saying is that I would say, ladies and gentlemen, we have exhausted tribunal number one, criminal. Now, let's go to the second one, a lawsuit for $75 million. I call as my first witness. I represent the family now. I call as my first witness Paul Joseph Watson, police training expert. Mr. Watson, based upon your experience and your observation of the officer, did you form an opinion as to whether he was negligent? Did he violate the accepted standard of care in policing? Absolutely. What is your opinion, Mr. Watson? This is the most negligent, the worst. Fine. That's it. Because we have just overcome the slight preponderance of the evidence burden, and we have just won $75 million. That's not criminal, that's civil. So, depending upon which forum, and I hate to keep being, I don't want to sound pedantic here, but there were wrongdoings. Now, let me ask you, Paul and David, did you see anything that indicated that Mr. Garner was the topic or the subject or the target of prosecution because he was black? Do we know of any? Maybe there was, or we don't know this. Were any racial statements made? Is there anything to indicate that his civil rights, specifically, not that he was arrested or arrested poorly, but that he was targeted because of his race? Do we have anything?
No, I don't think so. I think he was targeted because he was doing something that you're not going to find most people who are not poor. I think it was really more of an issue of him being poor and thinking he's going to do something that's in a black market area to try to do this. But, you know, when you're talking about the civil suits, let me ask you this, Lionel. There doesn't seem to be any penalty involved for the police individuals in these cases, certainly not for the police department. You know, this is if they win a $75 million lawsuit, as you pointed out, that gets passed along to the taxpayers. Just like you said yesterday, in some states, there's an automatic indictment for some crimes. If it's a felony, they don't even need to have a grand jury. They're going to have a trial. Right. I think that was a great idea. I think that's something that would be a good reform, that we immediately, if there's a death involved with police, and it ought to automatically go to a trial. But when we have a civil case and there's money taken out, it seems to me if we're going to try to achieve some kind of systemic reform, there has to be a penalty that the system pays, that the police department has something taken out of their budget, at least a huge percentage of that fine that's going to come out comes out of the police department budget or something like that, to try to make them reform, put some pressure on them. That
would be interesting if you said, for example, okay, members of the Garner family, what would you like? $75 million from the public treasury? No. I want 75% of the overtime budget to be, you know, that would get people's attention. That's a different one.
Yes.
It's very interesting. But in this case, though, let's go back. There was a police officer years ago, Officer Francis Lavodi, who did federal time because he basically went and choked out this guy who gave him some lip, and it wasn't an arrest. It was, I mean, it happens. So what I'm saying right now is, once this meme gets started, once we look at this case, people will say, this will have to be our case, and we're going to make all the changes on. I kind of alluded to something. Last night, I have never heard or seen the amount of helicopters and drones. I don't know if I'm seeing things, but we saw some stuff flying around that was most unique. Now, tonight is going to be probably the last night before the weekend. And the police, knock on something, have been very good in not losing it, you know, and the protesters as well. But here is my question. And Paul, I'm going to tell you right now, I might be a racist as well for what I'm going to suggest. In the 60s, when you saw Dr. King and when you saw Jesse Jackson, the younger, and others get together, they made specific plans. They had an agenda. They had goals. While we see people showing protests all over the country, what is your goal? What do you want? Don't say stop killing unarmed people. That's generic. What do you want? The first thing that we must very simply do, all of us, write this on your, and I mentioned this at Lionel Media on Twitter. I mentioned this. Wonderful hashtags. Mandate a special prosecutor every time there is a cop killing of a civilian.
Yes.
A prosecutor from someplace else who can do this without fear of reprisal.
Excellent idea. I think that's the key. People get frustrated with this. If they don't have any goals, when they protest, they just get even more frustrated. And then, of course, you're going to have some people who use it as an opportunity to go kick the cat. We're going to be right back with Lionel and Paul Joseph Watson. Stay with us.
This hour of GCN brought to you by LeSig. Kick some ash with LeSig's high-quality e-cig kits and e-juices. Like us on Facebook for a 10% discount. Call 870-525-1440 or visit lesig.com.
Hi, Ted Anderson with Midas Resources. Is it time to convert paper 401ks and IRAs to solid gold and silver yet? Get our 10 Reasons book free. Call 800-686-2237. That's 800-686-2237.
Hey, Boomer! I learned in school today that 60% of our bodies are made of water. Good thing we have the Berkey system. It's the cleanest, best water ever. Mom says it's because the Berkey's filtration system cleans out the bad stuff and leaves only pure, delicious water. I know, right? You love it too. Yeah, I'm thirsty too. Let's go get some. Get Berkey clean water by calling 877-886-3653. That's 877-886-3653. Or visit goberkey.com.
Mom, I can't do my math homework. I just don't get it. I hate math.
I've always tried to be a good mother, but when it came to Jamie's math, I was at a loss. Then a friend told me about Math Made Easy DVDs. Concepts are simplified in an easy way to follow and review, and students can learn at their own pace in the convenience of home. Listen, in the frustration, call Math Made Easy. Call now, 1-800-USA-MATH. That's 1-800-872-6284. Or visit us at mathmadeeasy.com.
I am a 47-year-old female and had a heart attack in 2005. This is Alice from New Jersey. I still get angina, even with 4 stents. I was taking nitro 2 or 3 times a week. The very first day after taking Heart and Body Extract, the chest pain was gone. Now I don't wear a nitro patch.
Learn the secrets of an effective, natural, 100% organic nutritional supplement for a healthy heart and circulation at hbextract.com.
Did you know by age 50, half of all men have an enlarged prostate? This means more urges to urinate, longer bathroom trips, waking at night to urinate, or issues with sex. If this sounds familiar, call us now, because we're shipping free bottles of Super Beta Prostate to listeners of this station. Super Beta Prostate is a non-prescription formula guaranteed to reduce the symptoms of your enlarged prostate. It's yours free. Pay only shipping and handling. Just call 1-800-852-1820. In clinical trials, the ingredient in Super Beta Prostate was shown to reduce urges to urinate, improve bladder emptying, reduce waking at night to urinate, and improve quality of life. This Super Beta Prostate free offer is for listeners of this station, but it won't last. Don't wait. Just call 1-800-852-1820. That's 1-800-852-1820. Call 1-800-852-1820.
Welcome back to the Alex Jones Show. I'm David Knight in Austin. We have Paul Joseph Watson in the UK joining us in this last segment, and also Lionel in New York. And I've had several people come through and hand this to me, so I need to point this out. There's an article that's up on Infowars.com. The entire racism narrative that we've been talking about, how they've spun this away from what really needs to be talked about, which is how do we reform the way the police are conducting themselves towards the public. That entire racism narrative is put in to stop that discussion. But that falls apart when you look at the fact that what happened to Eric Garner was supervised by an African-American female New York City Police Department sergeant. Had no problem with that happening. So Obama's solutions of cameras to record everything, that's not going to change anything. Obama's solution of having racial quotas in police departments that are mandated or controlled from Washington, that's not going to change anything. But I want to go back to Lionel while we've got him. Lionel, there was also another police shooting just this last weekend. Of course, the Mr. Gurley who was killed in the projects. There were two cops, a veteran cop and a rookie cop, doing a top-down patrol in a project building. The rookie cop had his gun out as Mr. Gurley and his girlfriend entered the stairwell. They got tired of waiting for the elevator. The rookie cop shot him, from testimony that's come out so far, without warning, shot him in the chest, and it sounds like they left without calling for emergency help. So there were some protests on Monday. We had some people who threw some fake blood on the police commissioner. I'm sure that's a factor in these demonstrations that are going on in New York now as well.
Yes. In fact, there was also today's Daily News had a piece in which they suggested that one of the police officers, or the shooter perhaps, again, alleged shooters and allegedly did this, but might have been on the phone texting his union rep rather than calling for emergency backup.
Wow.
Now that's also, this goes to show you, so is that racism? Is that incompetence? You know, one of the problems I have to understand is, you know, Paul and David, when you are assigned to a particular area as a police officer where there are more drugs, there is more crime, there is more robbery. Now, hear me out. In an area, a sector, I don't know what you call it in the UK, Paul, but a precinct or a city or a unit area, in a particular locale, and we're going to go in there. And I tell you, by the way, we're going into this new place. It's in Kensington. I don't even know the name. And there's more robberies and rapes and drugs and whatever. What can you tell me about that place? Is that going to be an affluent place based upon the number of crimes reported? Or is that going to be a poor place? What do you think based upon the statistics without even stepping foot in that area? What would you guess?
Go ahead, Paul.
Well, I mean, that's the point that many prominent black speakers have made, that the 911 calls are coming from the crime-ridden areas, obviously, so that's where police need to go. That's where they're called out. That's where they're going to go. So, why do you think, and let's assume they're poor, people of color, African Americans, Latino, not Park Avenue, not, you know, whatever, Beverly Hills or whatever the particular. Now, if that's the truth, so isn't the issue, well, why are black people or poor people or Latino people living in such areas? Why is there so much crime there to begin with, before the police even enter this? Why is that? So I hate to belabor the point, but this goes back in dissecting your argument. If we are tonight going to patrol New York or Austin or London or wherever it is, the majority of our calls, I guarantee you, are going to come from the place where there's most crime, and they tend to be poorer. So that means that our interaction with the poor, by definition, is going to be greater than our interaction with the high and mighty. Does that mean we're racist?
We're going to have to leave it with that rhetorical question, Lionel. Thank you so much for joining us from New York, and Paul Joseph Watson from London. Stay with us. We're going to come back at the top of the hour with Joe Wolverton from the New American, talking about the UN Arms Trade Treaty.
Thank you for listening to GCN. Visit GCNlive.com today. This December marks 20 years that I've been on the air. Kicking off on Cyber Monday and throughout the entire week, we're offering the biggest sales in the history of Infowars.com, celebrating my 20 years on air. And we do it by bringing our listeners the very best high-quality products. Free shipping store-wide on Pro Gun Made in America t-shirts. High-quality water filtration systems. But not just free shipping. 30% off Super Male Vitality. 20% off all colloidal silver. Buy 4, get 1 free. With your purchase of 1 bottle of DNA Force, you get 2 free bottles of Survival Shield Nascent Iodine, absolutely free, a $60 value. We're also offering 50% off a year membership at PrisonPlanet.tv and upping the number of people that can use each membership to 20. 20 years on air, and InfoWars is celebrating it with the biggest sale we've ever had. InfoWarsStore.com or 888-25